Hi everyone, my name is Noreen Afrina and my metric number is 295682. We are from Group 7 and today we would like to present a comparative ethical analysis of two major financial scandals, which is the 1MDB corruption case in Malaysia and the Siemens bribery case in Germany. These cases will highlight the impacts of unethical practices in both public and corporate governance. This presentation will investigate two the most of significant financial scandal. The first one is the 1MDB scandal in Malaysia and the Siemens bribery scandal in Germany. Both cases involve the misuse of power and unethical financial practices that lead to immense legal. Ethics plays a critical role in shaping trustworthy leadership and sustainable institutions. This report compares two major financial fraud cases, the 1MDB corruption scandal in Malaysia and the Siemens bribery scandal in Germany. This scandal occur in different contexts, one political and the other one is corporate. They share the common themes such as abuse of power, lack of transparency, and weak internal controls. The Siemens bribery scandal illustrates the corporate level unethical conduct. From 2001 to 2007, Siemens systematically paid bribes through shell companies to win contracts in countries like Argentina, Nigeria, and Bangladesh. Senior executives were involved, and the scandal resulted in historic fines and a complete overhaul of Siemens' internal compliance system. Both scandals reveal how deeply unethical practices can be embedded in political and corporate systems. They highlight the failure of accountability, the danger of unchecked power, and the need for effective legal enforcement and ethical education in both sectors.
Hello and good day to Doctor. My name is Nurul Sakinah. My metric number is 295481. I will continue with the Malaysian case study on the One Malaysia Development Berhad Scandal or 1MDB. 1MDB was a government-owned strategic development company launched into 2009 by former Prime Minister Najib Razak. It was meant to drive economic growth through foreign investment. According to a 2013 media statement, it operated with private sector thinking while being supported by the government. Interestingly, it actually began as the Terengganu Investment Authority before being expanded nationally. However, what was meant to be a tool for development became the center of one of the world's largest financial scandals. Over $4.5 billion was allegedly misappropriated by top officials and their associates. The money funded luxury real estate in New York and London, private jets, jewelry, and even Hollywood films. Most famously, The Wolf of Wall Street. At the heart of the scandal was Joe Low, a flamboyant financier closely tied to Hollywood celebrities. He and others used 1MDB as their personal piggy bank. Some of the money also allegedly went straight to Najib Razak's personal accounts. This caused widespread public outrage, and in 2018, Najib's government was voted out. He was later convicted and sentenced to 12 years in prison. From an ethical standpoint, this case is a clear violation of deontological ethics. Public officials have a duty to act with honesty and integrity, but in this case, those duties were completely ignored. Utilitarianism also condemns this act, since the overall harm caused to the country far outweighed any short-term gains. Billions were stolen, institutions were weakened, and public trust was shattered. In conclusion, the 1MDB scandal shows just how crucial ethical leadership and strong accountability systems are in preventing corruption and protecting the public interest. That's all from me. Thank you.
Good day to Mr. Raju. I am Nurdana with metric number 293655. Today I will be presenting an overview and also ethical analysis of the Simon Bribery scandal, one of the most significant corporate corruption cases in history. So, in today's interconnected and competitive business world, ethical behavior is no longer optional. It is expected. Companies expanding globally must prioritize transparency, accountability, and also ethical leadership to ensure long-term sustainability. However, the pressure to outperform rivals can sometimes lead business to cross moral and also legal boundaries in pursuit of short-term gains. Siemens AG, a global leader in engineering and electronics based in Germany, was at the center of such a controversy. In between 2002 and 2006, the company orchestrated a sophisticated bribery scheme involving offshore account, false documentation, and also a secret funds, all designed to secure public contract in countries like Argentina, Venezuela, Bangladesh, and also Nigeria and Israel. At the heart of the scheme was a mid-level manager, Reinhard Sikazak, who oversaw council funds ranging from 40 to 50 million US dollar annually. He justified this action by claiming the bribery was necessary to remain competitive and protect jobs, especially in Siemens' telecommunication division. Ultimately, Siemens paid an unprecedented 1.6 billion in penalties, highlighting the scale of this misconduct. Ethical analysis that we can see in this case is from a utilitarian perspective, which emphasizes achieving the greatest good for the greatest number. Siemens' actions were deeply flawed. While they may have helped the company win contracts and preserve employment in the short term, but they have a long-term consequences, such as public mistrust, global reputational damage, and also legal sanction, causes for greater harm not only to the company but to the global business environment. From a deontological perspective, which is grounded in moral obligation and rule following regardless of consequences, Siemens blatantly violated fundamental ethical and legal duties. The company knowingly breached anti-corruption law like the US Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and engaged in systematic deception, including falsifying records and also using shell accounts. Furthermore, looking at the corporate social responsibility (CSR), Siemens failed to uphold its obligation to society and also the community it operated in. Rather than contributing positively to local economies, the company enabled corruption, distorted fair competition, and weakened public institutions, action that ran contrary to core CSR principle. Finally, this case exposed a serious failure in ethical leadership and also internal governance. A lack of enforcement, oversight, and ethical tone from the top allow corruption to become normalized within the organization. This led a culture of fear, shame, and also disappointment among employees, many of whom feel betrayed by leadership that failed to uphold their values they claim to be represented. So, in conclusion, the Siemens bribery scandal served a powerful reminder that unethical behavior, no matter how justified it may seem in the short term, ultimately leads to a long-term damage, not just legally and financially, but also morally. Upholding ethics in business is not merely about compliance. It is about integrity, trust, and also accountability. Thank you.
My name is Lao Pei and metric number is 296028. I will present about the similarities and differences in handling outcomes in our issues, which is financial fraud issues. So similarities in two cases, which is one MDB and one Siemens cases. They are both involve a significantly legal actions and global investigations. So these two of the cases attracted international attention due to the scale and seriousness of the offenses. So investigations extended across multiple countries such as US, Switzerland, and Singapore. So both cases are served as important lessons on the consequences of corruption. So in the differences in the handling outcomes, one MDB case is focus of the individual accountability, which is the Najib Razak was committed and jailed. But in the Siemens case, they are focused on the corporate responsibility, which is no top executives are jailed. So in the legal process duration, one MDB case is ongoing legal processes and the asset recovery efforts, but the Siemens case is resolved relatively quickly. So in the cooperation with the authorities in the Malaysia, there is a limited cooperation and politic environment. But in the Simon case, there are full cooperation with the authorities. In a political influence, one MDB case is highly politic and political interference affects the legal and the enforcement bodies. But the Simon case is less politic and they are more focused on the corporate governance. So in the reforms implemented in Malaysia, there is a limited institutional reforms, but in the Simon case, there are the major internal reforms, which is compliance systems and ethical practices. So in the international impact, the Malaysia is exposed weakness in the governance and transparency in Malaysia, but the Simon case show effective corporate governance and willingness to reform. So for the public perception, in Malaysia there is seen as a rare case of the head of government being held accountable, but in Simon case is seen as a model for corporate reform and accountability. In the Malaysia case, in the perspective on enforcement outcome, is criminal conviction and the imprisonment of a former prime minister, which is Najib Razak, and the Simon case is the monetary fines exacting 1.6 billion no imprisonment of the top executives.
Virtue ethics focuses on a person's character and virtues rather than rules and consequences. In the 1NDB case, high-level officials violated virtues such as honesty and justice by misusing their power for personal gain and misappropriating public funds. In the Simon's bribery scandal, managers and employees engaged in unfair and dishonest practices by using bribery to secure business opportunities. The behavior displayed a significant lack of moral character among those who involved. Virtue ethics focuses on the development of individual character. In the 1MDB case and Siemens bribery scandal, show a lack of clear ethical guidelines. Although the relevant behavior obviously violates virtue, the specific moral standards vary from person to person because virtues are perceived differently by different people. In the 1MDB case, high-level officials fail to manage public funds properly and engage in corrupt activity instead of protecting the public's interests. Siemens and its employees were required to obey law and ethical standards, but violated these duties by offering bribes, which broke both the law and ethical business practices. Deontological ethics can be too rigid and may result in negative outcomes in certain situations. In the Siemens bribery scandal, following strict ethical rules might have led to bankruptcies and job losses if the companies face overwhelming economic pressure. Additionally, people often have different views on what their obligations are, which can create confusions and disagreement in applying this ethical theory.